Okay.
Let's see. Oh, it says we're recording. Well, uploading.
Did you plan questions, or are we just kind of like
No,
going off of
we plan
whatever?
questions. We'll
Okay.
just see how it goes. Try to keep it to 30 minutes.
Okay, sounds good.
I don't want to overtake your time or anything.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. I'm just checking on the LinkedIn side. Hello, Abby. How are you?
Hi. I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm so glad you agreed to be on my show. And just to give people a little bit of background, I met you at the SWE conference, SWE 24, which is the Society of Women Engineers, their annual conference that was in Chicago last year. And I'm going to
Y-
let you introduce yourself a little bit to everyone.
yeah, of course. So my name's Abby. I'm currently a senior chemical engineering student at UC Irvine. I'm actually originally from Wisconsin, but I mean now I live in California. I love it here. It was um, like it was a lot for me to adapt, but now that I found my community here, I do love my school. At school, I work for the engineering undergrad student affairs office as a peer academic advisor. So I run the podcast there. I help students build their plan of study, advise, plan workshops. So I co-lead that with another peer advisor. I've been working that for 2 years. I used to do undergraduate research and protein engineering, so in the biotech kind of realm. I've been a part of the ChemiCar projects through AICHE, American Institute of Chemical Engineers, for 2 years. And we actually won our Western Regional Conference last year. So those are just some of the things I'm involved in school. Um, but yeah, really now I'm a part-time student, so I have more time on my hands. But yeah, I met Sandra at SUI 24. It's my second year going, and I attended her seminar about financial success. And she came on my podcast for UC Engineering School, so now I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, and I forgot to mention this is part of why I asked you to be on here. I was so impressed that Abby has lined up so many potential offers as she's graduating while she's in school. She's also really learned and leveraged this whole system of, going to the conference and actually getting a job offer. Because I've heard from so many different people, they're like, there's no real jobs through the conferences or nobody's hiring. Yet you're still in college and have learned how to effectively network, interview, and have potential offers. And this is all while you're a senior in college instead of complaining about the job market or no one out there hiring or no one's here at these conferences interested in anybody. And I love that other side of it. It's not just, just positivity, but showing people that you really can, you know, leverage all this stuff to make it work for you. Yeah.
Yeah, no. I mean, it definitely is hard. It's also just a weird time. I mean, right now graduating, like it was an election year, so just like a lot of changes going on. But I do think it's possible. I mean, my friends have offers. There's a lot of opportunities still out there, even though if it doesn't feel like it. You just have to kind of look for them, which is probably like one of the hardest things I've learned in college. Is how to find these sort of opportunities. I think for me, like I mentioned, I actually went to SWE conference last year. And after my second year of college, like I know I list all the stuff I'm involved in, but there was a moment in time where I felt like I really didn't fit into school. I actually almost transferred. I honestly like really didn't like it. I didn't really have like my place here. I honestly had like a lot of imposter syndrome. And I think like going back to second year, what kind of started all of that and I could start building my network was doing this peer advising position. um, I actually failed multivariable calculus. I did fail it. And that was a class that I failed and I had to like learn from my mistakes. But that's why I did the peer advising position because I wanted to help other students that are like in a similar position. But from there, and the program actually paid for me to go to SUI 24 this year. So they paid for like my flight, registration, everything. So That was the way they gave back to me for my work as a peer advisor. But the first year, 323, when I went to conference, I was seeking an internship. Um, and I actually, through my SWE chapter, they paid for me to go. So both my conference is paid for by my school. And I know that's just opportunity like at UCI that they fund, but I think you really have to seek out those opportunities. Like if I never showed effort in SWE, they never would have gave me that opportunity in the first place. Like if I didn't go to their events,
Right.
if I didn't try to apply for those positions, they never would have gave that opportunity to me. So I think that's like I know it takes time to kind of build that sort of network and connections and like activities and whatnot. But I think the sooner you start, the better you are and the more helpful you are, things will slowly like kind of help you in return. So like, because um I attended SWE meetings, like even though like I wasn't on the board or anything, I just showed that I like cared. And like I was a good member of SWE. I was like helpful. I volunteered. And then from that like Chemi Card project, um, that was really rewarding. Like that was kind of the first time I met older chemical engineers. Like I knew nothing. Um, no one in my family like was an engineer in industry. Like it's not like my parents told me that. I really had to seek out this network like on my own. So I think you just really have to put yourself out there. And I never think it's too late. Although like if you didn't put yourself out as a senior, better now than like later because these are skills you need in industry. So
Yeah. I like how you bring up that spirit of proactivity and what can you do and kind of you giving of yourself first and seeing kind of what you get out of it. What do you think? So you kind of mentioned you did struggle a little bit when you first joined college, and I don't know if the turnaround was more junior year, but what do you think kind of helped, you know, shift you out of that feeling like you're not fitting in and imposter and all that?
yeah, for sure. I think I had that a lot first year. And I think my problem was like actually in high school I had really great friends. Like my hometown friends are really great. But now I'm like in California, I'm across the country. And I don't think I ever had like not great friends actually. And I think that was my first problem is I didn't actually have a real support system. They were nice, but like I couldn't like trust them. Or I did have friendships that fell through, or they just weren't like minded or have the same values or goals I had coming into college. So I think that was kind of a rude awakening. So then like I had imposter syndrome, but I also felt like very alone. And I think this is a story that a lot of engineers face. It's like the imposter syndrome, but also feeling so alone and isolated. And you kind of get into that mindset that like I'm the only one with like these sort of problems.
Wow.
And so yeah, so I mean, not to minimize like other things as well, like there could be stuff going on at home and like there could be financial burdens and whatnot, but that's when you kind of get into that mindset. So I think what broke me out of that was honestly probably hitting like rock bottom. Not to be like, I mean, of course I'm only like 22, but from my 22 years of life, like I feel like my rock bottom of college was like after my first year. Like I
Wow.
feel like coming in, I was that like kind of esteemed high school student. I never really failed at anything. I never really felt like bad about myself ever. And I feel like for some reason, first year, it was kind of like a slap in the face, or maybe just like leaving Wisconsin and seeing the rest of like the world and being
Yeah,
in
I was gonna
SoCal.
mention that. You changing
Yeah,
states, and
yeah.
I think you didn't go because you knew people or have a built-in network
Oh
in
no,
California
I
at
have
all.
no family here. I know no one, no one, no one from my high school. I knew no one. But I was like, I wanted to. I was adventurous naturally, and I wanted to like break out my comfort zone. Like, I've always, I love science. Like, I wanted to be engineer. Like, I thought that's what I was good at. I thought those were like my skills. Like, I wanted to go to where the growth. I want to know like what this cool like technology is, and like I saw that as like California.
Oh, that makes
Yeah,
sense, that makes sense.
yeah,
'Cause, yeah, if you stayed
yeah.
in Wisconsin, yeah, it's
Yes.
not really like a
I
tech
just like yeah, and like also at this time, like I wanted to go into biotech actually, and like Irvine's a huge biotech like hub. So I was just like I want to go where like all the innovation and like technology is, and like so I came to Southern California. But anyway, that's how I got here. But so kind of how I turned that around, I think I really just had to like fail really, really hard, and I didn't like bounce back right away. Like I really struggled for quarters. I really, even after I failed my class, I still didn't do well the next quarter. I retook that class over summer. I think over summer really tried to is when I really realized kind of like my mistakes and where I went wrong and like rechanged my mindset. And I redid that class. I got an A+ in that class, and that gave me a little bit of confidence back, but I knew I still had like change stuff. And I really think, and then going to second year, I was just like, okay, I was actually in a sorority my first year. My second year is like, okay, I want to be more integrated into engineering school. I want to find more people and I want to have like more opportunities. I want to like put all this stuff on my resume. I want to do like all new things. And so like I joined the ChemiCard project, and so that's how I got my mentors. I had a really great mentor in that project who was like a senior chemical engineer. And it's nice to see someone that did it, to see someone at the finish line. You
Yeah,
know, I didn't know any chemical engineers. Like I go to a big school, like UC has like 30,000 undergrads. And like everyone's in the same math physics and like chem classes as all the other engineering majors. So it's like I barely knew like any chemical engineering students, not even like upperclassmen. So I think seeing someone that like did it, I was just like,
further along.
okay. And like a woman too, like I was like empowered by that. And she was like super nice. And then I also went through my second year, applied for a peer advising a position. And I think me giving back also helped me like I changed my mindset. I changed like my study habits. I like found a better community engineering school. But I think actually me giving back is what like prolonged that mindset, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
like of
kind of like
helping
you're
other
saying.
students. Yeah, helping other students and also allowed me to see how far I've come. And that helped me like overcome the imposter syndrome. Cause I think a big part of it is like not giving yourself any grace for how far you came. So like I think with me, like all of a sudden in like a blink of an eye, I became one of those students that like I not like I wasn't jealous of, but I was just like, wait, they're a leader. They accomplished so much. Like, how did they do all this? Like, that seems so far. And in the blink of an eye, like I realized I accomplished a lot too. And it just takes time and you don't like change it overnight. But I think like that's like steps that you can do that too.
Wow. Yeah. You know, I totally relate. It's very humbling because, like you said, you might have went through the first 18 years of your life being very successful and not really, you really just didn't come across a lot of obstacles. And now you're an
Yeah.
adult in college in another state. And I'm
Yeah.
just curious, when you failed that class the first time, were
Mhm.
you blaming like the professor or the school or the curriculum? Was it just like you're blaming all these external factors and that's part of what contributed to like you had to learn from that?
Yeah, I think a part of it, I honestly, yes, I was like blaming a lot of stuff. I also just you can blame a system for most part, but and there was like a lot of things that happened that were like out of my control that were like more personal. But at the end of the day, you can only kind of control certain things. And
Yeah.
I wasn't taking care of myself. Like yes, like these injustices even or like bad things do happen. And that is life, sadly. And some things are really bad, of course. But at the end of the day, yeah, you kind of just have to take care of yourself and try your best. And I wasn't taking care of myself. I
Mm.
wasn't eating well. I wasn't sleeping well. I wasn't making healthy choices. And it happened so fast because I was just like, you have this idea of what a college student is or what a college student should do. But all of a sudden, and my parents never like implemented like, oh, habits or do stuff for me. My parents are very like, I'm a very independent person, but I think it's harder to do stuff for yourself, especially when you're not doing well. It's hard to take care of yourself
Mm.
um, if you don't have that confidence and like almost like self love to do so. And I think that was part of my problem. So it's kind of like a domino effect. If you're not taking care of yourself, you're not going to like accomplish your goals, like, period. And I think I didn't even realize I wasn't taking care of myself until like all these bad things are happening. It's like a tumbleweed and it's like carrying up all this like bad things and dust and I like failed classes. My life was a mess, but that's okay. You can fix it.
Wow, I love that. You know, and it's funny. I failed a class when I was in college too. I think someone, I saw this LinkedIn post today where someone said they never failed a college class. I'm like, how? I feel like anyone failed at least one class in college.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mine was intermediate programming, and it was a tough class. And like
Yeah.
I could have like blamed it. It was like 12 in class, you had pre-class, you had post-class, and then if you couldn't turn in something, which basically meant you couldn't compile code, So if
Hmm.
you turned in code that wouldn't compile, that was a 0, and then you got a 0 on everything after that. So they're really pushing you to like turn in and complete assignments. And just towards the end, it's getting so hard, and
Yeah.
and it's just real easy to make a. I think I made a D, and I
Yeah.
needed a C, of course, to pass.
Yeah. And I think like a thing like with UC Irvine's like the quarter system. So you'll see like midterms like 40% of your grade and the finals like 30% of your grade. That's a
Yeah,
huge percentage of your grade for like literally one test. And I think like coming into college, like you always hear like engineering's hard, but you don't, I mean, you just, of course, the coursework and what you're learning is hard.
yeah,
But I think like there's other, like there's, I guess that's one factor, but I don't know that's always like the root cause of why engineering's
yeah,
hard.
yeah. They're
Like,
testing you on your mental toughness, I think, and
yes,
resilience.
yes. And like also it is part of like the system almost. Like I will argue, like, depending on, of course, it changes professor, school to school, but sometimes you are taking a test, like you're studying almost for the test. And like I think you get a lot of like your engineering experience and like what makes you engineer from what you do outside of class. So I think like that's kind of weird. In high school, you're always just like, I want like this high GPA. When engineering and like also in college now, it's not really okay. Yes, everyone needs to like take the same classes and obviously pass those. But now it's more like emphasis like, okay, we're all chemical engineers, we're all mechanical engineers, we all take these same courses to be accredited a degree. But what really makes you different to the next engineer? So I think that
Yeah,
was kind of a hard thing to tussle with because that's another mindset change. Like I'm not so focused and tunnel vision on my grades. Like I need to find out what I'm interested in since these disciplines are so broad.
yeah, yeah. That's so true. It's when I was in that computer engineering class, people would beg for extensions, and he said, "So you can just all procrastinate more." But it's
Yeah.
real life, right? So I mean, he stuck to his deadlines and all that. So it's just, but it's part of that, like you're talking about. It's not just the academics and the grades.
Yeah. It's not,
Yeah,
yeah. Um, yeah, but I think more for like interviews and like those internships or like entry level opportunities, it's, and I know like people probably say this like all the time, you'll hear this a lot. It's like, yes, it is now like, okay, your outside activities that kind of shape your experiences as an engineer and what skills and like unique problem solving expertise you can bring to a role. But now it's like also, can you actually describe those well? Can you story tell that well?
yeah. Can you?
Yeah, my mentor in my internship, one of like I guess my most favorite and like things that really stuck with me is like you can be like the best or smartest engineer in the room, but it means nothing if you can't tell the
Absolutely.
story. If you can't like engage with your audience, if you can't break it down and make it interesting for your engineering team, engineering department, company of why it matters and why we should care. And I think that's probably one of the biggest things I learned from my internship, but also like a kind of a hard thing to wrestle with. That sometimes, I mean, yes, that is very true, but how almost like kind of narrow-minded that is, especially in like academia, it's very like, let's learn, like science is great. But now it's like very like, okay, can you do this role? Can you do it well? And can you
Yeah,
tell me like the story? So it's kind of like different than like how engineering is like taught in school, even from like when I first learned about engineering, like in like high school or like middle
yeah.
school, like I like heard of
It's
engineers.
very academic,
Um,
and it's the
yeah, it's like science is beautiful, science,
theory,
everything
right? But now it's like
connected.
do the project, and can you actually complete it? And you might
Yeah,
have this difficult person that doesn't want to talk to you, or
yeah,
all those.
yeah. And I also think I noticed that just like from my internship interviews, it's still like we're looking for an interview that or intern that like learns and is a fast learner and like is willing to like put in the time. But now entry level like interviews, okay, switch over like, okay, can you do X, Y, Z? Can you bring this to the table? Can you fulfill all these responsibilities in this role? Because of course, like they're investing in you. You're that full-time employee. Like we're paying you this like amount of money. So there is like us kind of like bridge and switch over. And it's just very interesting to see, but it is kind of like if you want to go industry, that's kind of like the fact of the matter in like the sooner you kind of have those communication skills to tell that story, the better off you would be. So like it's like a big gap from like, okay, scoring an interview,
Mhm.
then doing an interview and then scoring that like offer. And it is hard, but and it can take a lot of practice for sure.
Yeah, can you tell us some of the differences in what you did between Suite 23 to Suite 24? where
Yeah.
before you had all these interviews lined up, potential offers now, because that's a quick turnaround to, and that's why I tell people when they go to the conference one time and they're really counting on that to land a job, it's stressful, right? They go into it very
Yeah.
underprepared. They don't realize like Sweet 24 had over 20,000 people there. It was daunting. It was a lot of people in one place. So
Yeah.
did you do different between, like, what did you learn from the first one to take into the next one?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Sweet conference is crazy. Even compared to like 23 or 24, like 24 had a lot more people. And it's just like, I don't know. It is a
The
little like,
job market. I think that's what.
yeah, it's crazy though. It's definitely overwhelming. It's like honestly almost scary to see. It's absolutely crazy. And also see that many women engineers and like, and everyone's like very gun ho,
It's
like go, go,
money
go.
moving around, and you're like, oh,
Yeah,
there's so many people vying for the same type of jobs. Want to talk to the same companies.
it's crazy. But yeah, so 23, my first time. Like I said, I had that scholarship for my local
Yeah.
or my Irvine Suite chapter. And because I got that scholarship, they actually had an info session. And our chapter is honestly like really great. Like kudos to them. Those girls went the year before and they presented basically stuff they wish they knew. They told us like how to prepare, how to do our elevator pitch, resumes, like to get a portfolio, like all these like little things like how to dress. And so like they really helped me with that. But I didn't really because for SWE and other conferences, you can like upload your resume one to like the SWE website. And also like bigger companies will open like a SWE application job role that you can apply like 2 weeks before conference. And they'll start pulling from like those resumes to literally give interviews on the spot. And I didn't do that my first year I went for internships. Yeah, so the interview I did at SWE, like I just earned like on the spot. And that happened to be like the company I went with for my internship.
That's so
So
rare. Wow.
yeah. So like I didn't apply to like any of the companies beforehand internships. Honestly a lot of them were like mechanical aerospace like internships.
Yeah.
So like there wasn't a lot that actually fit like what I wanted to do at the time. So that's another reason why I didn't do that. So going into that, like I did prepare, I did like background, I had to list like 10 companies I want to talk to. I
Mhm.
think I spent so much time talking to some of the companies. I probably only talked to like maybe six my first day. And then my second day I had an interview and how they lined it up, the interview was like during the second career fair. So I didn't even have a really chance to have that second day
Mhm.
for like those interview slots. So I did that one interview on site for SWE. Then got a few weeks later, I got a second interview and then I got that offer for my internship. And that's the internship I did. Now for this year, I there's more roles open for me that I was interested in. So I put my resume into the SWE portal. I put it into like different big companies. Like I just went down like the whole list and it's like uploading my resume to all of them. So I had 3 interviews going into SWE basically
Okay.
before I even like arrived at like conference. Like I already had those interviews lined up, which is like really nice opportunity. Um and then I got one other interview like on the floor there that they offered me for a position there. So I got like 4 interviews total at SWE. And I interviewed all of those on site. So I think just like it's like crazy preparation before. I think they might release like the exhibitor list in like August or something. I didn't look at it that early, but I think come September, I started looking at that list and narrowing down and trying to figure out companies that had roles open, companies in different industries that I was interested in. So you can spend literally hours preparing for SWE like generally, depending on like how in depth you want to do. For me, I wanted to take this opportunity since I got an internship last year. I was like, okay, it's possible. And like I know like a lot of people at my school like got internships or got full-time offers from like SWE conference. So I was like, that'd be really, really nice if I like got an offer from SWE. So I did put like way more time. Like I think my first year SWE conference, I probably took, I don't know, like maybe a couple hours. I want to say like 4 hours to prepare. This year, I don't even know how many hours I prepare. Like anytime I had downtime, I would just go through the list and see on like LinkedIn and stuff, like if they have any more roles that they open for SWE, like the just apply directly right away. Um, or on their websites. Like I would just be like checking every day to see what things would open and I would just send my resume through. But yeah, that's kind of how I did it. I know one of the companies I think also like some like once you put it in that SWE portal, some companies also reach out to you directly. So I
Mhm.
think for maybe one of the two of the companies, like I companies email me and ask if I want to interview at SWE also, and like I never directly like, applied to a role in their company. So like they are looking like it is there. I think generally, of course, like you want to like read through a lot of job applications, like especially for entry level engineers, especially if you're looking for like one specific industry. It's a lot of the same buzzwords, and you just need to get past like those resume detectors, and then you have like a really big chance of doing that interview. I will say some of the companies at SWE, they only have booths for like interns. Like they don't interview for entry level roles like at SWE, which I think is interesting. I didn't know that this year. But like it is possible, like you just need to put in like that time and work and like potential planning. But I know like also other people that I think kind of start planning like a couple of days before SWE and they still got like also interviews. Like they're just trying to interview as many like qualified people like literally as possible to find the best candidate. So
Right. Oh, wow. But yeah,
yeah.
so much really good advice there because that's why I kept telling people do research before. And in the first year, I thought that was a good strategy because you kind of niche down, right? You weren't
Yeah.
getting overwhelmed. Like, I mean, just to give people a perspective, that job fair is crazy. It's
Oh yeah.
nuts. If
It's
you
so crazy.
just walk around aimlessly without a plan, not knowing what companies you're going to
Yeah.
talk to.
Yeah. It's just like it's crazy. It's almost like amusement park or something. Like it's literally so crowded. I think another thing too is like ranking stuff. And obviously like the bigger like name brandy companies that everyone knows, like everyone's gonna go for them. So like if you really want to go there, get there like early and be like first in line or something. But other than that, like you have to kind of strategize like by the lines and stuff. So kind of see like who doesn't have a line because you're just trying to talk and network as much as you can. Another thing is like even if because like usually the larger the company, the more booths they have because though these companies spend so much on like interview booths, like their booth, like they literally spend so much money. So like of course the bigger companies are gonna have like a bigger display and potentially more booths. But even like the smaller companies who may not even have interview booths, like I know one of my friends, like she got her internship at like a smaller company, but they didn't have booths. They're not doing on-site interviewing, but they did have a booth at Sweet. And like you just need to have that like connection. So like don't be afraid to go for like the smaller companies who may not have like interview booths. Um they can just send it up the interview with you later after Sweet. Like you just need to make some of these connections.
They
So
maybe just not paid the money to
yeah,
force feed
exactly.
all that. But yeah, I love what you brought up because I'll hear from so many people like, "Oh, these companies are here; they're not really hiring." Like, no, they
Oh no,
probably
they
are if
are.
they're at the job fair.
Yes. And like they do want to hire like if these like I mean for example Sweet. Most people at SWE were involved in SWE some way or another,
That's
probably
true.
when they're in their undergrad or something, or if they care about it. I mean, usually like the people they're like, yes, they're hiring, but they're all women engineers. They have some like usually have some affiliation with it. And like they were in your place one day too. Like they have that empathy, I think. I think in my all experiences that they've been very welcoming, very nice. And they're coming back. They want to help you, you know? So that's why I think I mean, yes, the competition's high. Yes, there's a lot of people, but there is that like human face-to-face contact first off, which is a huge thing. The Matt applying off LinkedIn, that face-to-face connection and networking. But also like you have something in common. Like they're all women engineers. They want to help you. They want to find that next talent to replace them. So eventually they can retire. So
Yeah.
I think there's definitely like that human aspect of this like relating to these people more just because they're women. And I think that's like very real for sure.
Oh yeah, and there were people my age. I mean, I wasn't a SWE member back in college, just to be transparent. But there are a lot of people my age that told me they launched their whole engineering career from going to a SWE conference when they were in
Yes.
college. So that's
Yes.
how they started their whole career. And then, like you're talking about, when you give back, when you feel like you receive something from an organization, they want to. That's why they volunteer. I mean, recruiting's not fun. I've been a recruiter at it's not fun. Like you're on your feet for hours and you get tired of
Yeah.
talking to people and having the same conversation over and over.
Yeah. Yeah. I think like, yeah, like all this is like super great. But I think like definitely like, my first year, I was like, this is so weird. Like I've never been, I mean, yeah, there's like UCI career fairs, they're like smaller and stuff. But like this is a one of the, I think it is like the biggest career fair or something in the world.
Oh,
I
I'm
think I
sure
saw
it
that
is.
like,
It has to be.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I just thought it was like super weird just to see like all these students lined up with like, like all their work and like, they're motivated. They really want someone to give them a chance. It's just kind of weird thing to see. And it is like sometimes if you like think a little long, it's kind of sad. Like I'm
Yeah,
sure all these
because
students
you're
are
thinking
very
like,
bright.
a small fraction of them are going to land jobs and then some aren't.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it can kind of get in your head a little bit and like, well, what makes me think I'm smarter or better than anyone else? And there's all these
Yeah,
other
exactly.
smart people in this room that also want jobs.
Yeah. It's hard and like it's definitely just weird and also like just possibly inefficient. Just having all these students like line up and like you're just having this elevator pitch and just like I mean, yeah, we all have like slightly different projects, but we're all like, pretty similar. So it's hard to stand it is hard to stand out, but I just think you really have to like try. And I do think it's better than like mass applying on the internet. Like I do think it's like
I agree.
worthwhile to try to go and make those connections. And there's like smaller ones. Like if you're looking at specific industry, like sometimes they'll have like career fair for like whatever industry it is. And of course, there's like other professional organizations and DI organizations. But I do really think conference is beneficial. I think also like everyone's focused on the career fair, but it's a massive networking event. Like I think also you don't know who you're like sitting next to on like a shuttle bus. Like
Mhm.
it could be like literally a VP of like some big company. So like be nice. Like don't I think it's really hard because yes, everyone wants a job usually if you're going to conference. Or not everyone, but like the younger people.
Yeah.
But you can't be too like grabby. Like you really just try to have to be generally nice and try to like be grateful and like thankful for this opportunity. For me it was easy because like I'm literally be sent to go. Like this is like amazing. Like I don't have that like financial like burden of like potentially paying for conference or something like that. But I was super grateful and like I made great connections, like although they didn't like lead to job opportunities right away, but like I met people like last year and this year, of course, that came on my podcast. Or I just like I had the chance to go to fun talks and listen to like these super accomplished women speak on like different industry spotlights or different aspects that I thought were like really moving. So like don't just go to the career fair. And like although maybe not get a job right away, then like you're in a career fair, but down the line you are building your network. So you try to have to like think long term. Like one of the women I met like right away, she didn't like offer to like refer me to like her previous company, but after working with her, and stuff, eventually she did. Because I think she was trying to see my intentions at first. And it was to do with my podcast for engineering school, but at first like I generally just like wanted her to be my podcast. Like I really liked her talk. It was super cool. Um, and yeah, later down the line, after we did the podcast, and I saw like I just had genuine interest in her seminar, and I just appreciated it. Then later down the line, she's like, "Hey, if you ever need like a referral to like this
Mhm.
X company, I'll help you." So it's just like you have to like I know it's hard and like you really want that like immediate like job, but you have to try to think like long term and build that network
Yeah.
and be
Yeah.
helpful and like support women. Like at the end of the day, like if you're going to sweep, like yes, of course you want a job, but you also want to prioritize learning and building your network and supporting these women there that are accomplished. So
Oh,
yeah.
I love that attitude. And it's so true because you're building these relationships first and you aren't so focused on the outcome. Because I think that's
Yeah.
what people get so fixated on. Like, I'm going to
Yeah.
the thing, I gotta land a job. So when they have that first conversation with someone, it's that very transactional, it's that needy, like,
Yeah.
do you know of an opening? Where do you work at? Are you hiring? And it's like, oh my gosh, it's very off-putting, right? Because it's like you don't even
Yeah.
know anything about me.
Yeah. And it's hard. It's hard because of course, and like you make these mistakes like early on, but and it's hard to be like, what can I offer this like random company recruiter, company, I don't know, representative, like I obviously am here to like want a job, but that's why it's also nice and not to underestimate like events or just like talking to the women like
Mhm.
beside you. And I think once you change that mindset and kind of talking about like earlier, like helping volunteering, once you change that mindset of just like, I'm just grateful to be here. I'm grateful to meet so many women in this field. I'm grateful for like all this. I think once you change that mindset, it's easier for things to fall into place.
That's
Because you're not like, oh, I don't want a job. Like I'm not like locked in and like finding a job. You still are, but I think if you have that more, I'll do something for you, do something for me mindset, it'll take you longer and long term. With your network, and also bring like have like an actual strong network because um, you actually do care about like other people's like accomplishments and what they have to say.
wow.
So
That's amazing to realize that so young and going into that
yeah.
confidence attitude where it's
Yeah.
kinda that shift from it what's in it for me, and it's like, well, what can I maybe give or offer others, and how can I, be of service or help other people? I love that. Ugh.
Yeah. And it is hard because you're like, when will I have the opportunity to do that? But I think that's just like part of another really great engineer from my internship who's also on my podcast. One of her favorite things that she told me was like, you have to know your why. And like, of
Mm,
course, you're like, I'm in college. Like, I don't know. Like, I maybe like if no one's giving you a chance, like, how do you even know if you like me in industry and like all this? That's why you really have to like try to put your anxieties about like finding a job and stuff aside and really try to pinpoint why you're doing something and why you think you may like something, and then it'll be easier for you to like help other people or like give back because you know why you're doing it in the first
yeah.
place, and you know why you have like genuine interest in it in the first place. And that can take a really like these are nothing that you decide like overnight, which sucks because like students want like immediate, like they want that fast change, they want that results. But the fact that matters is stuff is like super long term and you're not going to probably get it overnight.
Oh,
And I think the sooner you accept that, again, like long term you can have better results. But I mean, yeah, that's what I
you're so
think.
wise beyond your years. You're not just the salary. I want a job. I want to be an
Thanks.
engineer.
Yeah, but I mean, and I mean, yeah, but again, like I'm like that whole why statement, another woman engineer told me that, and that really resonated with me, you
Yeah.
know? So like all like I mean, yes, I maybe am wise by my years, but this is because I've been listening to older people and their experiences. Like we don't have to reinvent the wheel like a million times, you know?
Oh.
There are people in this world that like have accomplished stuff. And so, I mean, I think listening to this podcast is a great way to do that and like listen to other people's like thoughts and opinions because I do think that's powerful and it can like that sometimes can be more beneficial than like sometimes waiting like a really big line for hope that someone gives you opportunity because it's really shaping on like how you think and what you have to offer in a different way. Of course, like networking, you do have to probably wait in that career line to maybe get an interview. But I mean, these are all things that if you're thinking a long run, I think can actually set you apart from like other candidates. It's like working on like who you are and what you think matters.
Yeah, it's almost this journey of learning more of who you are in this whole process, right? And that's what's
Hmm.
interesting. Well,
Yeah.
do you have a little bit more time? Because I would love for you to give, especially people of the same generation as you, Gen Z type of people, like some real tips about how to interview and how to
Yeah.
interview when they don't have a lot of work experience yet.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, so for entry level engineering positions, like I kind of mentioned, there's like a weird like switch flip that there's like, okay, can you do X, Y, Z in these roles? So I think first thing first, really understand the position you're applying for and interviewing for. At first at conference, I think I could have done this more. This is something I could improve on, learning from like my past mistakes. They want your answers to hit on the responsibilities of your work. So this doesn't have to be like the craziest, coolest like engineering project that like won first place. Like you just have to somehow relate the job responsibilities to something you have done and that you can articulate that. Because like a lot of times for like entry level roles, they just want to check off the list. Okay, she can do this, she can do this, she can do this, and she can communicate that she can deliver this. So that's first things first. Another thing is like I'm sure viewer or listeners have heard this before, like company values somehow like try to implement these sort of values like in your response, like show that you have integrity through your stories, you know. Um, I think practicing your responses is really great. Of course, like the STAR method, you want to focus more on the action, the result. Always saying like I in your interviews, everything you say be prepared for a follow-up question. Like all my interviews have had like follow-up questions. I'll start talking about a project, they will ask follow-up questions. So anything you say, if you're spinning it, or I mean, maybe don't like obviously lie, but if you're spinning it, like think it
That's true.
through,
That's
like
when
be
you kind of
able
get
to do follow-up questions.
busted.
Yeah. And it all this comes to practice. So like try to practice with a friend. But I think, and of course, like understand like what the company does and like research on the company. I also think like depending on the industry, it's really helpful to know like current events to show that like you're not just applying, like you care about the industry. You know what's going on. You know like the growth.
Oh, like Google them and just kind of see what
Yeah,
comes.
just like future aspects. Like, are they building a new massive manufacturing facility? Like, what do you think is like projections of the company and like goals of the company in the future? Like, kind of see like current events of what's going on.
Mhm.
Um, so I think that's also really helpful. It just shows that you cared enough to like know about the company, that you're like kind of following the company, any big like developments or like projects that they're like advertising, I think are good to bring up as well. And it'll help you with like, oh, why do you want to work here question.
Mm.
So
Those are
I think those,
tips.
yeah, those are my tips. I think the biggest thing is like also, which comes with practice again, is just like presentation and like being confident within yourself. I know it's like really hard, especially now, it's like intimidating more so. You're interviewing with like your potential manager, your engineering team. Like there's like a lot of panel interviews out there. Like that's of course like intimidating, but you really just have to be confident and like portray what you know. For technical questions, also like um, I haven't got too many of those, but for the ones I did, sometimes I do like brain teasers or like little riddles. Always just like the first thing I like to do is like restate the question back to them to make sure I like understand it. And then like if you don't know, you don't know. And like it's better than like maybe doing like a half answer than just being like, oh, I'm not sure. Like admitting that you don't know something if it's
Then
like
you
a
need to
technical
talk it
question.
out a bit, right? Show them
Yeah.
the thought process.
Yeah.
What would they I'm just curious, what would they ask for like a chemical engineer type person like on the spot like that?
It's just like basic stuff from like I don't know, like ask like material balances or like
Oh, okay.
specific, like very specific stuff or like what's the first law of thermodynamics, which I've like heard or seen like stuff that happens like my friends and stuff. Other stuff is just like brain riddles, if that makes sense.
Oh, interesting. Kind of like
Yeah,
real
like one
interviews.
of them is just like what is it? It's like there's three like light bulbs like in a room, but you can't peek inside the room, and there's like three switches. So you have to connect the switches like to the light bulbs.
Oh, I didn't know people
Yeah.
did this in interviews. I've never heard
They're
of
always they're always coming up with like new weird things to like test problem solving skills. I don't know. But yeah, that is a thing, like brain teasers. That's not as like common, but if you just look up like most common like brain riddles, brain teaser questions on Google, like they all come up.
Yeah, I think you're right. I didn't have a brain teaser one. I was given an impromptu test during an interview one time. This is a long time ago. And I didn't do well with it, but I kind of talked it out with them. They helped me kind of rationalize through it. And then what's interesting was I had a friend that also interviewed for the same job, and she cried during that part of the interview.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I was thinking like, oh, for sure, like I'm getting the job. She's not. No, no. The next day, she got a call from the hiring manager that she was really impressed with her. I was shocked. I was thinking, what?
That's crazy. Also, like some things are out of your control. Like I don't know. I think I've had interviews where like I felt like really good on it. Like I was like, it's probably one of the
Yeah.
best interviews I had in my life. I get rejected like 2 days later. So it's
Yes,
like
I agree. You never know.
um
It's a human
sometimes
factor.
you never know. So all you can do is just like keep, I mean, of course, like reflect about your interview. But all you can do is just like really keep trying. If it's meant to be, it's meant to be.
Right.
There's so many things that go into like hiring. Same thing like literally college like applications. They literally apply to college. And if you sit around and like wonder, except that like of course obvious things, if you just like wonder like why didn't you pick, it could be anything. It could be something completely nothing to do with you. So it's better just like, move on and just keep on trying.
Yeah. Maybe that person wanted someone to cry in the job interview. That's what's desirable to her.
It was like an emotional test. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm the same like you, where it's just there's no rhyme or reason. Sometimes you feel really good about it, and then you don't end up getting an offer. And then some of the ones that you feel a little lukewarm, or oh, it could have went better, and then they're really crazy about you. It's interesting.
Yeah. And yeah, it's weird to never know. It's all people's like opinions and perceptions of you, which is kind of weird. But I mean, just like don't stop trying. I know like internships and like entry level jobs, like even if you like go to a conference or like some networking conference event, whatever, and you don't get anything, like don't give up. Like don't stop applying. Like I know like one of my good friends like didn't get her internship before like 2 weeks before like school was done. Like because like sometimes people drop their offers or like
True.
something happens or like I don't know, more spots open up or like something like that. So you never really know, especially with like hiring right now. So you just have to keep on trying until like I
Yes.
mean, you get something.
One of my mentees, and I met her at the SWE conference, and
Mhm.
it was her first year going, and like we're talking, it was a very daunting, overwhelming experience, and nothing much really panned of it. And then like right, I think after Christmas, she texted that she got a full-time offer.
Yay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it didn't look very promising, but she just kept going, and she was having conversations and building relationships, and like just keep doing the stuff that you can do, and
Yep.
something will work out. And like right in the nick of time, because she was a December graduate. That was the other
Oh, got it.
urgency for her. So yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And there are like cycles. Like I would say like a lot of times like the bigger companies will be like in this fall, January area. And then like the smaller companies, once like other people are like I think hired to like the larger companies, they'll open up roles. So like a lot of roles will open, especially they come spring. So I think a lot of stuff is like here right now. It's like there's not that much open and like all this. But okay, but it's like the new year stuff will like be opening soon. You just like I mean it sucks. It's like honestly like a waiting game. Sometimes the gamble, but you can really only control like how like what you can do. And I mean, if you prepare, if you practice, like that's really all you can do. By now, if you're a senior, you've done the hard work, you know, like you did your involvements, you did school. Like now it's time to really like reflect and like of course like rehearse your things, your interview answers, to put your best foot forward. But now it's time to like tell your story, you know. So, but that takes some that takes some time. It's like weird to kind of like advocate for yourself in a way as like an interview, especially like when you think it's like so hard, you're like, doesn't like my resume speak for myself, you know? Like I try
Oh, no,
super hard,
it doesn't.
but this is your time. Like you did all this work. Like now it's your time to like be on the stage and you know like, promote yourself
Oh
and
wow, we have a whole nother
sell
conversation
yourself.
about that. Yeah,
Yeah,
selling
sell yourself.
yourself
Like
is hard, especially as
it's
women,
hard.
and wanting to
Yeah,
brag on yourself and your
it's
achievements.
hard.
Yeah,
Yeah, but that's another thing that doesn't come overnight.
yeah. Well, I've already taken enough of your time, but thank you so much for this conversation. I think it's going to benefit so many people, and so excited about everything that's happening for you, because I know you're going to land some type of full-time offer to be determined.
Yes, we'll
When you
see. We'll see
graduate,
where I work.
and all the work and all this reflection, and I'm just so impressed because like I said, you're just like so wise beyond your years. I didn't realize a lot of things that you're talking about till now. Or more recently. I definitely didn't realize it in my 20s or in college at all.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I still have like so much to learn, and like this is just like one area. There's so many like I don't know different like parts of like what makes someone like wise or intelligent. But I mean, yeah, I think yeah, it was really great to be on the podcast. So thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Let me end it. Okay. I ended it on LinkedIn. Okay, I'm gonna stop it here. Okay. Okay. It stopped. We can talk.
Yay!
Absolutely.